This is Donnell and this is Monique. They are a happy couple from Philadelphia whose life is about to change. They recently signed up to the Netflix show How to Get Rich to find out why they are broke. If they don't find out, they will never be able to buy a house and their kids will never have a place they call home. But there's hope. Ramit Sethi, a personal finance guru and the host of the show, is going to help them overcome their 5 biggest money mistakes. But in the end, only Donnell and Monique will be able to find out the real reason behind their situation. Let's not take any longer and get into it. It's the first time they meet Ramit to discuss about their finances, but you can already feel a little discomfort in the air. It is not common for them to talk about money because they are afraid of what can come up. Until that moment they had dealt with money separately. He had his accounts, she had her accounts. He had his debts, she had her debts. There is no joint account or transparency whatsoever, and that is their first mistake. As a first step, Ramit challenged them to define a rich life together, to talk about how they want their life to look like in the future, and to define which goals they really want to achieve. Once they talked about their financial situation and planned their rich life together, it felt like a burden being taken off. They felt light and were not scared to talk about money anymore. It was the beginning of a new life. Talking about money is a step most couples need, one that can be hard but will also be of great benefit. They are very excited about the future and ready to build their rich life. Ramit is asking some questions to help them build a plan, but he's already regretting it. He doesn't want to believe how many accounts they have. No more nor less than 15 checking and saving accounts. Why is he questioning? Because if the money is spread, it feels like we have more, said Donnell. Having too many accounts is their second mistake. How can they control their financial life if they have no idea how much money they have and where? Also, having these many accounts is damaging their credit card score, so the next assignment came right away, to close most of those accounts. Alright, rich life defined, accounts closed. What's next? Now it's time to talk about the biggest fear of every person, their debts. Like many Americans, Donnell and Monique have a huge amount of debt. Student loans, auto loan, credit card debt and even collections. They are starting to believe this is the reason why they are broke, but they couldn't be more wrong. You may think their mistake is to be in a lot of debt, but their real mistake is not having a plan to pay off that debt. So that's what Ramit suggested them to do next. However, not all debt is equal. Some have bigger interest than others. In their case, credit card debts and collections have way higher interest, so those ones are the first to go. The plan is simple. Every month when they receive their paycheck, they will put an X amount of money towards their debts. If they decide to put $500 a month, they can tackle those debts in just 2 years and 10 months. But if they decide to put $200 more every month, they can pay in 1 year and 10 months, and that will be a huge relief. Donnell is super excited with the plan, Monique not so much. By this moment, Ramit is so proud of their progress, but there is yet another thing to uncover that will make him go crazy. One of their expenses is the rent of a storage unit. They are storing stuff they want to keep, but also some they want to sell. Nothing wrong with that. However, he just opened the unit and the amount of stuff they have there is just insane. You can even see an old microwave there. Donnell's goal is to sell most of that stuff that can be worth like $2,000, but he didn't have the time yet. After some calculations, it is clear that keeping the stuff is costing them more than what they can get by selling it, and that is their fourth mistake. Ramit's suggestion is simple. They should sell the stuff fast and downsize to a smaller unit so they can keep the stuff they want. Everything else is either sold, given or trashed. This way they can save more each month and put that money towards their debt. Everything was great until Monique came home from work. She is furious. There are 2 Amazon packages at their door. Donnell has been shopping again. When Donnell was young, he was very poor. He grew up not having much, so now if he wants something and has the money for it, he's gonna get it. They came to a coffee house to discuss it, because now they talk about money. If you continue to spend as before, we will not be able to save enough money to buy a house, says Monique, angry. Unfortunately, Amazon was not the only problem. Donnell loves to play video games as a way of relaxing after his day of work. But those games usually require a purchase here and there to continue playing and improving. It adds up pretty quickly, and he confessed it can cost up to $600 a month. This purging habit is their fifth and last mistake. Donnell is almost crying. After all these years, he is the reason why they are broke. No, says Monique. In a moment of wisdom, she realizes why they are broke. We are in debt because from a young age we have handled our money wrong. And she couldn't be more right. This is the truth so many people run away from and refuse to admit. But only when you admit that you are doing things wrong, you can open up yourself to learn and to change. This conversation was a life-changing moment for them. They now realize they are in a position to reach their goals if they break their old habits. Instead of spending their money mindlessly, they are now thinking on spending on their goals. Donnell wisely knows that it takes time to break old habits, but it all starts by having a strong reason to break them. If you enjoyed the video, there will be more like this in the future, so make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out. Thank you for watching, see you on the next video. Have you ever wondered how much money do you need if you want to stop working today? That's what you will find out in today's video. So let's get started. Step number 1. Calculate your monthly expenses. You probably already have a rough estimation in your mind considering house costs, transportation, groceries, clothes, and so on. You need to consider all of it. But what you are probably not considering are unexpected costs, like a car repair, a broken fridge, or a new car. You should go in detail to understand what extra expenses you might have and add them to your list. For simplification, let's add 50%. Depending on where you live and your lifestyle, your monthly expenses may be lower or higher. For this example, let's consider a total of $6,000. Step number 2. Investigate which assets you can buy to get a stable income every month. Now that we know how much are our monthly expenses, the plan is to buy assets that will provide us income every month to pay for those expenses. The two most common sources of income are real estate properties and stocks. Real estate investment is when you buy a house or land and rent it to someone. The returns are usually between 2 to 15% a year, depending on where you live and if you find a good deal. As an example, if you bought a house for $100,000 and you rent it with 8% return, you will earn $8,000 of income per year and around $670 every month. This is already considering all the costs you will have with your property. Other option is high dividend stocks. When you own stocks, you own a piece of a company, and when that company pays dividends, you receive a part too. There are companies that pay more dividends than others, so instead of buying stocks from only one company, you can buy from a group of those high dividend companies. We call a group of companies an index fund. The dividend returns are not so regular as real estate and can vary a little bit from year to year, but you may expect an average return from 2 to 4% a year. So if you invest $100,000 with a 3% return, you will make $3,000 a year and around $250 a month. For this example, let's consider we want to invest mainly in real estate because of the 8% return, but also a little bit in high dividend stocks with a 3% return. That could mean a monthly return of around $50 to $100 from renting and $800 from dividends. But because there is unpredictability, some months you may not have anyone renting your houses, some companies may be paying a little less, and so on. So let's be safe and add a 20% safety margin. Rounding up, we will have around $7,000 from real estate and $1,000 from dividends. This way we can pay all our expenses only with the real estate and we can invest and save with the remaining. Doing some quick math, we need to invest $1,050,000 in real estate and $400,000 in dividend stocks. So, for a monthly expense of $6,000 and returns of 8% and 3%, we would need to invest a total of $1,450,000, almost 1.5 millions. Were you expecting this number? Of course, if your expenses are higher and your average returns from real estate and stocks are lower, you will need much more money. But if your expenses are lower, you will need much less money. You may also decide to invest only in real estate, maximizing the returns, but personally I like to diversify a little bit. Quick recap of your homework so you can calculate for yourself. First, calculate your costs, having in mind unpredictability. Then, investigate in your area what is the average return on real estate and search for high dividend stocks and index funds that you like in case you want to diversify. And finally, calculate how much money do you need today to cover all your needs and add an extra 20% for safety. Imagine a life where you don't need to work and have all your expenses being paid. This is the dream for so many people, but it doesn't mean you don't want to work. It just gives you flexibility to work on where you want. Now you ask, what if I don't want to retire today, but I want to get an extra income every month? Where should I invest the spare money that I have? Ideally, the best place to invest for passive income is real estate, but it usually requires some high sums of money. You may decide to save for a small house and grow from there, but there are other alternatives in the meantime. You can choose the high dividend stocks we talked about before that will provide a good return every month. Here are some examples you can look for. But my preferable choice is to invest in the S&P 500. If you don't know, the S&P 500 is an index fund. By buying a stock from there, you are buying a little bit of each of the 500 best companies in the American market. What I like in the S&P 500 is that it has an average growth rate of around 10% a year, meaning if you put 10k there today, the expectation would be it will be worth 11k next year and 26k in 10 years. Of course, the growth is not regular, so you may even lose in the first year, but with time, history says your money will grow an average of 10% besides your dividend payment every 3 months. The strategy that I most like is to invest the same amount every month, called dollar cost average. This way I don't really care if the price of the stock is high or low, I just buy a little bit each time. Because I believe with time it will be higher and higher until I have enough money to sell and buy a house instead. If your dream is to one day not having to work, my advice is to write down your goals, make a realistic plan and execute it until you have achieved it. And it all starts by saving every month, investing frequently and subscribing for good luck. Thank you for watching, see you on the next video. Which life is better, being rich or having the ideal work-life balance? For some people, their dream life is to have a huge house, to travel around the world, and the best of all, to decide how they want to spend their time. For others, happiness is having a job they love, that pays well and allows them to spend their time with their family and friends. In this video, we will compare these two life goals. Let me know in the comments below which one do you think is better and why. Let's meet our contestants. Meet the rich. He has a great house with a big pool, has a lot of money invested in property and stocks that provide him great income every month. He can travel around the world, afford luxuries without feeling guilty, and the best of all, he can choose how to spend his time. And he can enjoy all of it with his family and friends. However, nothing came for free. This life was a result of years of hard work, persistence, and countless challenges. Our other contestant, the work-life balance guy, is not less hardworking or successful. He proudly owns his house, has a good paying job and is able to afford what he needs. The most important thing for him is his family and he loves to spend time with them. He doesn't worry about money because he keeps improving his financial situation, so they will never run into financial problems. Which one is your favorite? The rich guy or the work-life balance? They will face each other in 3 rounds. Round number 1, we will compare them in 4 categories. Round number 2, we will have a rapid-fire challenge to see who handles problems better. And in the final round, they will fight to see which one is the easiest to achieve. Let's start. Which scenario has the most work flexibility, the rich or the balance? The rich can choose what he wants to do, when he wants to do it, and where he wants to do it. He can start a business from the beach, he can work on whatever he is most passionate about, and that is priceless. The balanced guy has less choices because he needs a stable paycheck. He works for others, and although he loves what he does, he has a working schedule and sometimes needs to go to the office. Both have flexibility to find the right job, however the rich has less barriers and therefore is the winner of this round. Which scenario brings the most job satisfaction, the rich or the balance? The balanced guy loves his job and most days he's pretty happy. He can easily do different tasks so it doesn't get boring over time. His work is fulfilling and creates impact for the company. The rich can choose whatever he wants to work on. However, most satisfaction comes from hitting goals, which may be hard to achieve when you work for yourself. But when accomplished, it is the best feeling in the world. Despite both scenarios have a big chance of high satisfaction from their job, the balance is the winner of this one, bringing a tie to the competition. Which scenario brings the biggest comfort, the rich or the balance? The rich can afford all the comfort and luxury he wants, from amazing cars to incredible vacations, awesome houses and all the fancy stuff you can imagine. When money is not a problem, it is a matter of finding out what we desire. The balance has some restrictions, but proudly owns a comfortable house he calls home. He has a nice car, is able to travel from time to time, and can enjoy most things he desires. Both the balanced guy and the rich can afford an amazing and comfortable life. However, the rich has even more options, making him the winner of this round. Finally, which scenario has more free time available, the rich or the balance? The balanced guy has a job he needs to attend, but he has a flexible schedule and can easily leave earlier to pick his kids from school. Also, he doesn't bring work home, so he has a ton of free time in the evening and on the weekends to be with his family and friends. The rich has his business to take care of, which gives him flexibility but also responsibilities. He can free himself for his family and friends, but he loves to be working and improving his business, which leads to less free time available. And because of that, the winner for the last round is the balance. Round 2. Rapid Fire. In this round, let's quickly fire problems and see who handles them better, the rich or the balance. Let's start with the car breakdown. Who will handle it better? Point to the rich. He can pay someone to take care of it and will easily afford the repair. What about a kid crying? Point balance. He has more time and patience for his kids, therefore he will easily handle the situation. Then we have a financial crisis. Point rich. Even if his business fails, he has investments that will continue to bring good income and will probably maintain his lifestyle while others are struggling. Next one, boredom. Point balance. When he is bored, he can easily find useful things to do, like house chores or activities with his children. And the last one, health issues. Point rich. He can afford the best doctors and treatments and therefore recover faster and better. And with that, the winner of round 2 with 3 points is the rich. Round 3. Which lifestyle is the easiest to achieve? Being rich or having the ideal work-life balance? Let's start by defining what do we need to have such a lifestyle and then rate it by difficulty. The rich needs a lot of money and therefore he needs to build a successful business or to get a high-paying job that allows him to save a lot each month. The balance needs to find a great job that he loves, pays well and doesn't work extra hours on a daily basis. The rich needs to know how to invest his money to get a stable income without needing to work. The balance needs to learn how to manage his finances well, so he can save, invest and spend wisely on the things he needs. Now the question is, how hard is it to accomplish such things? Let's start with the rich. To build $1 million business, it requires a lot of work and effort. As I consider it is super hard, I will rate it as a 1. The balance needs to gain the skills and search for the right job, which is definitely not easy, but it is also not super hard. I will rate it as a 2 because it's easier than to build $1 million business. For the rich to learn how to invest his money, I will rate as a 3. It is probably not super difficult once you have lots of money with you. And finally, for the balance to learn how to manage his money well, I will rate as a free as well, because there is a lot of information out there for that. And with that, the easiest lifestyle to achieve is the ideal work-life balance. Now the big question is, are you ready to work hard and become rich, or is it your goal to bring more balance to your life by finding the right job and learn to better manage your money? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribe and watching another one. Thank you for watching, see you on the next video.
This is my very dear friend, Mike. Some time ago, he had quite an interesting experience. It was a hot summer's day and Mike wanted to refresh himself with some ice cream, so he walked to the nearest shop to get some. These were the flavors he could choose from: chocolate, strawberry, and vanilla. Just the basic options. Mike didn't care that there wasn't much choice. Without much hesitation, he picked the strawberry flavor because he wanted a refreshing, fruity taste. The ice cream tasted alright, but was nothing special. However, Mike was still quite satisfied with his choice. A week later, Mike was craving ice cream again. This time he went to another shop where they had a lot more options to choose from, which was great. More choice meant that he could more accurately pick the flavor he preferred, one that he would enjoy more and would hopefully be perfect for him. However, the choice wasn't as simple this time. Mike didn't really know which one he would like the most, so he had to analyze and compare all the options. It took him several minutes to choose the flavor, and in the end, he decided to go with strawberry again because it was a safe bet. The taste was okay, but nothing to write home about, similarly to the ice cream from the first shop. However, this time, Mike wasn't happy with his choice. His disappointment was immeasurable, and his day was ruined. I'm going to illustrate why this happened with this graph. The y-axis represents happiness, and the x-axis represents the amount of choice. You can clearly see that when we have very little choice, or perhaps even no choice, we are very likely to be unhappy. And it makes perfect sense why. For example, if you want a job but there aren't any available or only one place is hiring, you're not going to feel great. Instead, you're going to feel hopeless because you aren't able to choose something better suited for you. But as you gain more options and you have the ability to choose between them, your happiness increases. Which also makes perfect sense. You don't have to work somewhere where you don't want to. Instead, you have the ability to pick whatever suits you best. So obviously, having choice is good. But what's interesting is, as you get more and more options, your happiness doesn't keep increasing. Instead, counterintuitively, it decreases. In fact, having too many options to choose from can be just as bad as having no options. Which is kinda weird, since more choice should allow us to get precisely what we want. But rather than liberating us and making us happier, having a lot of options does the opposite. Psychologist Barry Shorts coined this phenomenon the paradox of choice, because more becomes less. One of the reasons why more choice can be detrimental is because it raises our expectations. And usually it's to an absurdly high level where nothing is good enough anymore. When Mike was at the first ice cream shop, he didn't expect to find the perfect taste, since the choice was obviously very limited. Therefore, his expectations weren't as high, and the ice cream taste even slightly exceeded them. But in the second shop, where there were 100 different options, his expectations were much higher. Surely one of those 100 flavors should be perfect for his taste buds. But the ice cream only tasted alright, which is far below perfect. So Mike felt like he chose poorly, even though the ice cream tasted pretty much the same as in the first shop. And that's the problem. When there are more options, you're more likely to be dissatisfied with whatever you pick, compared to when you pick the same thing just from less options. Of course, choosing an ice cream is a harmless example, but the same thing happens when we're faced with choices in other more important areas. One good example is dating. You can now simply unlock your phone, open an app, and start swiping between potential partners. A few decades ago, we didn't have this possibility. Instead, we were usually limited to our small social circle, which meant we would date someone who was obviously not perfect. But now we basically have access to the entire world. And with so many fish in the sea, why would we settle for anything less than perfect if perfection could be just one swipe away? This results in unrealistic standards and therefore less satisfaction from our choice. However, this tends to lead to another problem. Some people, to avoid regretting their decision, end up not choosing at all. This is also known as analysis paralysis. When we're given a lot of choice and we're not sure what the best one would be for us, we tend to freeze up. And the more variables there are, the more likely we are to put off our decision. When Mike was choosing his ice cream, he was only looking for the best taste. And it's a good thing he was. Had he used other variables in his analysis as well, such as the price of the ice cream or how healthy the ingredients were, choosing would have become legit work. And if you've ever had to do something that required you to compare a lot of different information, you know exactly what I mean. For example, choosing what home to buy or rent. You have to compare the size of the space, the price point, the location, the interior, the infrastructure around it, and so on and so forth. And the more variables you're comparing, the more likely you are to feel so overwhelmed that you end up avoiding the whole thing for as long as you can. And this sort of paralysis is really common with people who want to have the best for themselves. But what happens is that they end up not buying a home because they have to check a few more houses since another one might be better. They also end up not reading any books because they can't tell which ones would be perfect for them. They don't bother exercising because they aren't sure which exercise plan is the best. And they don't invest their money because they don't know which assets are going to give them the biggest returns. Instead, they spend their time analyzing all the options, looking for the best, and not choosing any of them, which is more often than not the worst decision. Also, the problem is that quote-unquote the best doesn't really exist. The reality is that we'll always have to make some sort of a trade-off. For example, if you decide to buy car A, you might miss out on some benefits that car B brings, like extra storage or more legroom. And if you buy car B, you might have to settle for a more plain-looking aesthetic. Only rarely is one option clearly better in every aspect than the rest of them. Most of the time, each option has both advantages and disadvantages. This is why it's good to know what qualities are important to you. If all you want is comfort while driving or less gas usage, then you're not going to pay as much attention to a car that looks good but doesn't provide those benefits. And having these kinds of clear-cut priorities will actually help you negate analysis paralysis. So far, I've only been talking about how having a lot of options is detrimental. But in some circumstances, excess choice isn't as bad. Particularly with people who have very strong preferences or with professionals in a given field. For those people, more choice won't make them unhappy or paralyzed. Instead, they'll just be able to ignore the unwanted options because they have the experience and thus know exactly what they're looking for. For example, when I go shopping for a t-shirt, the paradox of choice has no effect on me because I know exactly what my preferences are. I'm looking for a shirt that's black or gray, that fits me well, and has no logos on it. Because I have set these standards, I'm able to simply ignore every other t-shirt that doesn't fit the mold. The problem would be if I didn't know what I was looking for, or if I didn't know which qualities I should be paying the most attention to. In that case, extra choice would be detrimental. A lot of restaurants have already picked up on this paradox, and they help you choose by offering 2 menus. On one menu, there's 100 different options for people who know what they want. But on the other, there's like 5 daily dishes they're serving that day. The second menu brings the amount of dishes from 100 to just 5. And this makes the choice much easier for someone who doesn't have the energy to choose and just wants a simple meal. By now you probably understand pretty well how the amount of choice can impact us. When we only have a few options, there's a high chance that none of them will be good for us and we'll feel unhappy. But when we're faced with too many of them, we'll probably have to tackle with paralysis and dissatisfaction with our decision. However, just being aware of the paradox of choice can help you minimize it. Or at the very least, when it does happen, you understand why. If you want to learn more about this topic, then I suggest you check out Barry Schwartz's book, The Paradox of Choice. The book goes into much more detail and I highly recommend it. Anyway, thank you for making the tough decision and watching this video. I'm sure you had a lot of other great options to choose from. Hopefully it reached your expectations, helped you learn something new today,